So should we be looking at the camera? Okay. We look at you.
You.
Don't we look at you? I thought your points that you were giving. Yeah. I guess that microphone is made for the live feed. Yeah.
Shaarey Yishkon Laveta Ilot Azov Nafshi Lishon Lo Titen Chasidecha Lirot Shachat V'Yeini Hanachayim Tovas Machot Et Panecha Nimot Yiminecha Netzach. That was from Psalm 116. Good afternoon, everyone. Pardon my baptism behind me. My name is Richard Yaffe, and it's my great honor to lead today's service to pay tribute to Harry Rachlis. I want to thank all of you for being here with us today at the Zedek Cemetery. And I also want to thank you and to welcome you who are joining us via the live stream. In particular, I want to welcome Harry's adored and adoring grandchildren who could not be with us today, Lila and Linus. Harry passed away on Thursday, April the 6th, at the age of 96. He was the son of Leon and Sarah Rachlis, the husband and the true life partner of Ruth, the father of Michael and Debbie, Fred, and Vivian and Adrian, and the grandfather of Linus, Lila, Sarah, and Samuel. My connection to the Rachlis family goes back many decades. In fact, as I was preparing for today, I reviewed my notes for Ruthie's funeral back from December 2017. Like Harry, I throw nothing out. And I realized that our friendship goes back over 50 years. And in a friendship with Harry and Ruth, age and generation were unimportant and really irrelevant. Ruth and Harry, Rack, as she called him, were dear friends not only of mine, but also quite independently of my mom, of my partner John, and of John's kids. My mom and I, together with one or both of John's kids, were always delighted to be included at the annual Rachlis Seder. Through the years, we've celebrated good times, and we've supported one another in times of sorrow. I've had the great honor and privilege of taking part in the funeral services of Harry's mother, Sarah, his beloved Ruth, their son Fred, and Ruth's brother and sister-in-law, Hank and Helen Promislow. It reached the point that Harry referred to me as his spiritual leader, somewhat ironic in that he and I shared the secular background. To describe Harry Rachlis as unique is an understatement. He did not cave to convention, and there was an absolutely lovable quirkiness about him, along with a reassuring sense of the predictable. When you phoned, you were greeted with Rachlis here, kiss, more often than not, on the mouth, a wide grin, and a twinkle in his eyes that could light up a room. But mostly, he was a kind and gentle soul, and he will be sorely missed by us all. The light of life is a finite flame, like the Sabbath candles, light is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty, but soon it fades. Its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full. But as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory, slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life.
And I'm sorry again, I'm going to be speaking to the cameras for the people behind me. Thank you all for coming to Harry's funeral, and best wishes to those who are watching live streaming, especially my children, Linus and Lila. First, I want to sincerely thank Richard for officiating at this service and for being my father's, I thought, spiritual advisor. That's what, spiritual leader. And we see it as spiritually significant that our father died on the 15th day of Nisan, the first day of Passover, the same day his father Leon died in 1960. Many of you knew Harry as a colleague or a friend or the father of a friend. Vivian and I were lucky enough to have him as our father. While he had many other accomplishments in his life, family was his priority, and I will direct my short remarks to that role. Sarah, Samuel, Linus, and Lila loved their Zedek. Our children in Toronto so looked forward to Harry and Ruth's visits. Unfortunately, he had a short time with his great-grandchildren, Solomon and Harris, and was never able to meet Emerson in Toronto. Harry and our mother Ruth loved us deeply and unconditionally, and they were married for 69 years. We have been so blessed. Harry's father, Leon, was a loving, gentle man and passed this quality to his son. Harry loved all his children, and they knew it. No child was unhappy if Harry was in the room. My daughter Lila told me that she has lost her soulmate. Other relatives have related times when his word or touch made a difference in their lives. I remember about 15 years ago being with my parents at a Rachlis family gathering at a hotel. Harry left to go to the washroom, and it seemed to take forever for him to return. He had found a young child crying in the lobby. One look at Harry turned tears into smiles. He came back with the infant in his arms and proceeded to introduce the parents and their child to the room. He always kept little toy cars in his pockets, just in case they were needed. And I remember a Promislo Simcha when he was in his 80s. He was on the floor for an hour, entertaining several young children who were bored with the proceedings. Perhaps he was bored himself. Harry sat on many commissions and boards, but probably his favorite was the Winnipeg International Children's Festival. In 1954, our father was a junior manager in a large public corporation. On a Friday, he was offered a promotion to manage the Central Ontario region. He was told to report to Peterborough the following Monday. We were to join him in 6 weeks. According to family lore, Harry realized if he stayed with his job, he could not be the father he wanted to be. He quit. He took less demanding positions so he could spend more time with his family. Thank you, Dad, for all your love and support. We miss you greatly. Your son, Michael, also known as you always called me, Moishe Mordechai. We love you.
My father was born in 1926. I was born in 1956. So there were 30 years between us, and the 30 years is something I'm going to return to when I cover a couple of other topics. I have way too much to say about my father. What do you say about this man that Richard has already reminded so many of you of, that my brother has spoken about, that some of you have heard me speak of? I decided today that I'm going to focus on 2 attributes that my father had, or 2 interests that my father had, to just give you a glimpse of what kind of person my father was. I'm going to focus on Harry Rachlis, the man of arts and letters. And I'm going to focus on Harry Rachlis, an advocate for human rights and social justice. What some of you may think of as DEI and IC, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and Indigenous collaboration, my father was all over that decades ago. So I'm going to talk about these 2 themes. So Harry Rachlis, the man of arts and letters. One of my earliest memories was accompanying my father Saturday morning after Saturday morning, when I thought there were more interesting things to do, but now this is what I remember about him. These Saturday morning trips were to the main Winnipeg Public Library on William Street. And we would start at the bottom of the old public library and work our way to the top. On the bottom floor, maybe some of you who are as old as me remember, where was the LP section. And we went up and down. We collected our quota of long playing records, classical music, jazz, marching bands, bagpipes, everything, comedy, 60s stand-up comedy. We took those long playing records home and we listened to them over and over in the coming week. We worked our way up to the children's section, and we took books like Stone Soup, Caps for Sale, all the Dr. Seuss books. There was always a teachable theme in these books, and I am ashamed to admit that I may not have read all of them to my children. I'm going to honor my father by reading all of them to my grandchildren. And as we made our way up to the library, through the library, we brought home a car full of books. My father was the most curious man ever. He was so literate. I have no idea where this came from. He read the Bible for fun. He read the works of William Shakespeare, and he passed that love of knowledge, reading, and literacy onto me and my brothers. All genres of music, I've already talked about the LP section. Theater. I have childhood memories of walking up Portage Avenue East towards the Dominion Theater, the predecessor of Manitoba Theatre Centre. My father making us sit through these plays that seemed very boring, and now I'm a subscriber to MTC and can't get enough of theater. Rainbow Stage, sitting on the grass, watching Sound of Music, My Fair Lady, and the Music Men. And yes, he took us to parades, and we had to get the best spot so we could see the marching bands and the bagpipes as they went by. Harry Rachlis, the advocate for human rights and social justice. Again, Dad's commitment to human rights and social justice, I don't know exactly how it was formed. No doubt it was formed in a crucible consisting of many influences. Coming of age as a young Jewish Winnipegger during World War II, his acute awareness of discrimination and racial tensions locally in the USA and internationally during the 50s on, my mother's anti-poverty work through her social work practice. When they invented the expression walk the talk, I think they were thinking of my dad. It was an understatement to say that my dad didn't hesitate to speak up, and that if he was concerned about the values you lived, you would hear from him about it. Dad truly believed that by relating to others with empathy, compassion, and humanity, the world would become a better place. This was never an empty statement for my father. His commitment was tangible. His steps were actual and real. I'm going to return, as I promised you, to the 30-year age gap and what this meant to our life as father and daughter. What this meant to me as the child that lived in Winnipeg for all but 2 years of my life is that I followed my father in lockstep, 30 years behind. I was fortunate enough to have my father as my role model, my teacher, my mentor. And as I went through the stages of my life, I just thought about, well, my father's 30 years older than me. What was my father doing 30 years ago? What can I expect of myself as Harry Rachlis as he would have been 30 years ago? Interesting concept that now at almost age 67, I won't have my father, and I won't have the person that was always 30 years older than me. But I know that with my father's teachings and my mother's, as Richard mentioned, they were a package deal, my parents. I think I don't want to make any assumptions, but I think I am now have the values that my father and mother passed on to me, and I think I'm ready to take these forward into my aging through my own life cycle. I want to thank Dad for making me the luckiest daughter ever. I want to thank Richard for officiating at all of our family funerals. Spiritual leader indeed. My cup is overflowing with gratitude, Richard. It's been such a privilege to have you officiating at all our family funerals through the generations. I want to thank everyone for coming, for showing love to my dad. If you didn't know my dad, showing love to my brother and I and my family. And I wish on you to reflect on some of the attributes that my father had as you live your life today and into the future. Thank you so much. Thank you, Richard.
Vivian, thank you. We're going to continue now with the memorial prayer, the El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim shochen b'mromim hametzem necha nechana tachat kanfei hashchina im kedoshim وتهاريم كزهر ركيم مزهيريم نشمات צבי בן אריה ושרה שהלך לעולמו על הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור החיים את נשמתו בצרור החיים את נשמתו אדוני הוא נחלתו ינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר under the wings of your presence to our loved one, Harry Zvi, son of Leon and Sarah, Arya Leib and Sarah, who has entered eternity. Let him find refuge forever in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. The eternal is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Please join in the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal, Yitkada, Shemei Rabah, Yalma, Yidra, Rabah, Niborah, Leolam, Lealmei, Almaya, Yiparah, Yishabah, Yitoar, Yidromam, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaver, Yitalal, Shmei, Yisha, V'lichu, Le'ela, Ninkobim Ata, V'shirata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Da'amirat, De'almavi, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabah B'Shemaya, Yechayim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru. Amen. Aseh Shalom B'Yiracham, Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru. those of you who have joined via the live stream. Thank you all for being here at the cemetery today. Those of us here are now going to proceed with the mitzvah, the commandment, the good deed of covering the grave. I do want to mention that it is precarious around the gravesite, as you can see. Do not feel compelled to participate. Your presence here is a mitzvah. Thank you, everyone.